Heavenly Father, I seem to need, goodness, habits are hard to break, aren't they? Do you see my language immediately reverts to what I'm used to, what I've used in the past? My brain is wired for a particular language. It's a habit, you see. It's the very essence of habit. It's a strange thing when a person knows several languages. It's almost, they're finding that they're a combination of values, that cultures, if you like, that are not quite consistent with each other. You could say it causes some confusion, but to good purpose. It widens who their God truly is to them. So I have two languages. That's the answer. You've answered my prayer before I make it. I was going to pray that you give me a pronoun, Lord. But I find you've answered it by saying you don't need one, Marshall. You are a combination of two languages. The one you were used to, which is the one most of your hearers speak, I might point out. They can't think in your language. No, I suppose not. And you'll use your language a little, and that will communicate another depth to them as to who their God really is. So you will bless them. You will reflect more of my glory. Thank you, my love. Thank you, my love. Thank you, my love. So you see, I might say Heavenly Father most of the time, but I might finish a prayer with thank you, Dad. And the Dad is my language. It's not the common way of referring to God. You know, even in Christian terms, it's just not. They might think should be perhaps Abba, but Abba was a bit strange too, you know. You won't come across many people doing that. And it's so with my spelling too. I don't write everything I do in my phonetic language, so nobody bothered to read it. But I do put the titles to my YouTube inserts, you know, because videos, because, well, I want to introduce it. I want to suggest, for a reason, that if we followed, especially what I think is this acceptable phonetic way of doing things, we would save countless millions of people, billions of people, I don't know, millions anyway, the arduous work of learning to spell their language. If we only were consistent in matching sounds to letters or letter combinations in a very simple way, and we can choose the particular one that I've formulated. Didn't take that long to formulate it either. It's particularly good for English speakers because the letter combinations I use are familiar, you know, in general. A is not just a letter A on its own. The A sound is an AY, as in say or pay or may, and so forth. And okay, people can put up with that to a small extent, and still follow what you're at. And they'll puzzle over some of the spellings and think, oh, I suppose he means so. Oh, I wonder why he always does that. Well, who knows? It's pretty weird. I haven't seen anyone else do it. But it's not a great burden. Whereas if I wrote in that normally, well, I mean, It'd be a burden to me too, because I'm not that familiar with it, not in that way. Wouldn't take long for it not to be a burden, that's the whole point. It's extremely easy to do. Far easier than learning English spelling, I can tell you. And of course, I had good reason for this, because my experience was I was terrible at spelling. I was probably dyslexic. Nobody recognised that. At my age, I just could not spell for the life of me. There seemed no rhyme or reason to it, and that's because there is no rhyme or reason to it. There's 1,000 rules, all of which are broken in so many different circumstances that the rules scarcely exist. And it's easier to learn the spelling than to learn the rules in the end, and all their exceptions. It's a bit like trying to learn the piano from the theory of music. What a waste of time. Or the guitar. You get hold of a guitar and play 3 or 4 chords. The pastor of the church that I was at was like that. Brilliant. Just learn a few chords, and then he built up on that. Never formally learned the guitar, and was brilliant in worship. Far better than his worship team, I might point out. But I guess he thought he was good at other things, and they were his priority. So he let other people lead the worship, except in the prayer meetings, and they were just excellent. Excellent for worship. Yeah. Okay, let me pause a sec. Well, I think that's it. Thank you, Dad.